Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to speak. I'll tell maybe a few stories around when this photography kind of started for me. Bird photography, especially, it's been a few years, 5 or 6 years now. But then, like everybody else, right, I really wanted the tight portraits and really getting close-ups and the details and everything else. And then I started thinking about this whole thing, the whole concept about art, art and bird photography, and art in bird photography. So these photographs are all mine, and most of them are usually almost 90% from the camera itself. One or two photographs, and I'll actually tell you a few of them that I have done a little bit of Photoshop to edit colors, sometimes to delete a few things, but I'll let you know which ones. Before I begin, this is what I found from the Oxford Dictionary. All right, this is art is very subjective, obviously, but I just want people to know about this, that this is the human creative skill we are talking about, right? It's a visual form, it's a painting, it's photography also. And the beauty in all of this is it emotes. It gives you, the viewer, something to think about, right? The emotional power behind this is what is really powerful. Photography, like we all know, is drawing with light, right? It's actually producing images, and this is an art form that has definitely improved over the years, and radically improved, in fact, in the last 5 to 7 years, and maybe 10 years or so, with the advent of all these beautiful cameras and the gears and lenses and everything else. I'm not a gear person. I would more think about photography as an art form rather than a gear. Like what interests me more is like I have the basic gear, actually basic. I have a Sony Alpha 1 now, so it's one of the top end cameras. But the beauty is it really doesn't matter what lens you use or what camera you use. It's what you see and how you present, right? I'm trying to build that story around the art form of photography, especially of birds. So just a little bit. I don't do much portrait photography, but it's something that I've seen before. You have the subject, you have the lights perfectly placed, the camera is perfectly placed, you have a backdrop and everything else. This is practically non-existent in wildlife photography. You got to see a subject, you have to play with the light you have. You see the settings and you say, okay, this is how I'm going to shoot. You need to know your camera really well, but you can't start thinking about background in every setting. Yes, there is a lot of beautiful bird photography where you pay a lot of attention to what's behind the bird as well. If you have the luxury to do it, fantastic. But typical lighting and the backdrop doesn't really work in your favor most of the time. Sometimes you do get lucky. This is again just a very common bird, a mallard, a beautiful light on it in flight, and I got some fantastic photos in shoreline. The light was, really dappled, and this was a really early morning light, and had lots of cloud cover, so it really worked in my favor. Same thing with this mountain bluebird. This is a mountain bluebird that we saw in Ravenswood here, so not too far away, but beautiful light, and it was perfect, right? So there was no shadows, nothing like that. Gave me a really good background. You got to get lucky to get these kind of shots in the wild. Not setups, but something that if you're just picking up a camera and walking around, they do happen, but it's not always. Now, I have to say, this kind of photography definitely yields you some of the best shots you will get. But I look forward to seeing light which is not really that conducive for photography. Sometimes I go out actually under very harsh conditions because I have something in mind. Most of the times I go out at very early in the morning when the light has not even come out, or late in the evening when the sun has already set. And that's a photography that I will actually show you now, and how I use that, how I use the light, and how I use birds as a subject in those cases. So I'll call this the subtle lighting. Subtle lighting in this case is both side light and backlighting, and this has become one of my favorites to go photography for birds. And as I'm showing you the pictures, I'll also let you know the place I've taken this. In most cases, it's in and around California. Most of them are actually in the Bay Area. Backlighting, most of us know this, but just in case, right? So the light is behind the subject, and this is a very difficult form because then you're losing details on the subject. You don't get those crisp and beautiful shots like portraits. You're getting the structure, you're getting the shape of the bird essentially, and you hopefully are also able to capture the landscape. That's the kind of photography that I think is starting to make a lot more sense to my style. Obviously, different people have different likings. Silhouette also is the same way, right? If your light is really behind the subject, then all you're taking pictures are shapes, and hopefully the shape makes sense. Sometimes, it's very difficult to identify a blob, but if a bird has a particular shape and it's backlit, then it really shows you those features very beautifully. So few examples here. These are willets. Willets are like, these shorebirds that are very common. This is in shoreline. Sorry, this is actually in Shell Bar in Foster City. Early morning, the sun had not come out yet, and the lighting was just absolutely spectacular. Yeah. So as the birds are flying by, I started looking at it and saying, okay, what kind of settings do I go into? I will not be talking about the settings in this particular talk, but I let you know that I spend a lot of time in camera trying to figure out, like, okay, do I need to underexpose at this case? Do I need to overexpose? What do I need to do? That's actually, yes, thank you, Alice. I do appreciate if people can mute themselves. So beautiful lighting. The sun was just about to come up, and then I got a series of talks, series of photographs that are I'm going to show in the next few slides. Now, does it look like this to the naked eye? Mostly it does. And I'll be honest, the camera sensor sees and does a lot more than that our naked eye can do. In this particular case, I underexposed the back, and that's why you see the darker colors. And actually, or you can actually bring it back onto your laptop, and then you can change the settings a little bit and darken the background and so on. You could play around quite a bit. This is a black skimmer, right? One of my favorite birds. And this year we got really, really lucky in Shell Bar. There are at least 3 dozen of them that I've seen 30 to 40 of them quite many times. And I've shot them during like regular light. I like them skimming. But one thing caught my attention this year is for some reason, this was in February this year, they were so active just about 5 or 10 minutes before sunrise. And that's what caught my attention. You can see the shape. Now you're also seeing the light on the feathers, and this just gives you this beautiful aura around the bird, which is already magnificent. So while I'm shooting this, I try to capture a couple of things. Can I get the bird doing something? Sometimes I'm really hoping it does skimming, catches something, or is the light on the feather showing a detail that I typically don't see? Or is the light behind the bird and in front of the bird so different that we typically don't see, right? And this is what I'm trying to capture. So this is early morning, and you can see the nice, beautiful colors in the sky being reflected in the water here. Look at this image. At sunrise, I'm lying low to the ground, and this beautiful skimmer starts doing what it normally does. And you can see this beautiful, absolutely stunning halo and golden color across the bay. So this photo has actually made my day. I had actually a very rough time in early February this year, and this kind of photography was actually helping me quite a bit. So peaceful, so good to look at. This one, same skimmers. Same place, Shell Bar. This is at sunset, and I spent a good hour and a half with these birds, and they had not moved for hours. And then, as the sun was setting, the light started to change color and getting these dramatic pinks, and the birds were not doing anything. And suddenly, this one bird, just out of 40 or 50 of them, starts flying around. And this image just makes my day, right? So, if you look at the sky, it's so gorgeous. And then you get to see these beautiful features on this bird in such dramatic skies. Look at that. So this is what I meant. Even a bird that we have seen and photographed. Sorry, was there a question? Even a bird that I've seen and photographed multiple times, the light in the sky just makes a difference. Very common bird again. And again, this one also at shell bar, right? You start seeing some things like this and say, okay, if I can get a backlighting on this bird, I know the shape, I know how the beak looks, I know how this bird looks in general, but just getting to see this in a different light started making it more exciting for me. Just a tiny bit of light hitting the wings, and then you can start seeing. So I was actually hoping to get a full silhouette, but the light was getting really bright, and this is the best I could do. And hopefully next time I go, I'll look for a silhouetted whimbrel. So in this way, I can just show you the shape of the bird and hopefully the feathers that are getting lit by this brilliant light. This is a willet. As common as this bird can be, look at what backlighting does to this bird, right? It's just absolutely stunning wing features. And so even the commonest of birds can look dramatic, just getting in the right background, getting the right light behind. Don't get me wrong, I spend hours, take hundreds of photographs. Not all of them turn out this way, but once in a while, right, they do turn out dramatic. Okay, so this is changing the country here altogether. This is actually changing the continent. This was in Africa. This was in Masai Mara, actually, in fact, and we had finished the safari and we were coming back. And I don't know if people have been there, but the driver told us that by sunset we have to be out of the park. We don't have permits to stay inside. And so he was rushing through. And as we were rushing back, I mean, driving fast, I just looked around and asked the driver to say, "Can you stop for 30 seconds? I just need to take this one or two pictures," right? And you can see the dramatic sunset there with this absolutely beautiful heron. Actually, it's a stork. So you can imagine everybody around me saying, "Okay, it's dark. You can't see anything. What are you shooting?" And then I showed the photograph, and then this is what next day we spent quite a bit of time waiting for sunset to happen. Same day, and I just did a quick close up of the same bird actually, and the same tree. So complete silhouette. You don't see
Ian, do you want
anything.
to turn it off?
Okay.
Yeah, isn't it over?
Sorry, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you. Coming back to the Bay Area, this is back in Milpitas, nice autumn month, and sunlight actually just at sunrise when this pelican just flies in, and you can imagine just looking at this absolutely stunning scene here. Back to skimmers, actually, I don't know why I did it this way, but they probably just forgot to organize them properly. But this is again shell bar at sunrise, and you can see this. This is the 2 dozen skimmers that I've been talking about all along. So waiting for this kind of opportunity actually took several attempts. In fact, it's not doesn't happen every day, as you can imagine. The skimmers have to fly or do something when the sun is coming up. Now you get a good, I would say, 10 minutes where this kind of light is just absolutely gorgeous for photography. And then it becomes impossible to shoot because the light is so high and the sun is so bright and you can't shoot much. These are the skimmers flying around at sunrise on a different day, but the same place in Shelbar in Foster City. Easy to see why I'm fascinated with this spot. All right. This one, this is a photo that I really, really like. I think the f-stop on this one is about f18 or so. And then I had to play a little bit with Photoshop because then the scene becomes too dark. I wanted to see a little bit of sun rays coming through. But once I do that, then the photo becomes too dark to play with. So brought it onto my laptop. I did something with the foreground here. I had to lighten it up a little bit. But you can see what I mean. If you spend time, you start getting images like this. Yes, you'll see the birds are there. You really don't know what they are. The details on the bird is not as clear. It's not a portrait photography, but I do see them as something that is very peaceful. It's something that I remember quite a bit because the sunrise was spectacular. One of my favorite shots, this was in Merced, sandhill cranes at sunset, and just so peaceful. Right, the sun is just actually, this is sunrise. This is sunrise. I apologize. Just coming up actually. And so you can imagine as the sandhill cranes are flying by, trying to get this kind of a silhouette. So I had to really wait for the birds to fly in at the right angle just as the sun is coming up. So your timing has to be really good. Same day, different time of the day. This is towards sunset, and this is again just waiting for these series of birds just to fly by. I really was hoping for a different scene. Was hoping there'd be fog or something like that, but I'm still enamored by this photo. Fog. This is actually one of my favorite photos, and this was in Coyote Hills. I'm driving there early morning, and I'll tell you the story behind this because this is quite a dramatic time for people who had seen and photographed a long-eared owl in Coyote Hills a few years ago, and we too had seen the bird. I've actually photographed the bird, but then one day I was walking very early in the morning. This was about an hour and a half before the gates opened. So I parked quite far, started walking inside, and there was absolutely stunning fog all over the park, very low visibility. And then, this is, everybody was looking on one of the marshes for where the owl had been located before. And I was the only person looking the opposite direction. And this is a shot I got, right? Just looking at the early sun coming just through the fog. And I see these two ducks and most likely mallards flying across the sky. And then I got this shot. Right, so you're just waiting patiently, looking the opposite direction for where the other photographers were, and I was able to capture these two photographs here, which are by far some of my favorites that I have taken. Can go on with this theme. Um, Early mornings, especially in foggy days, even simple birds, they look just dramatic. Get the right light behind you, the right light or reflections in water, you can get some amazing photographs, in fact. This is a coot, as simple as that, but the lighting makes all the difference. A double-crested cormorant here flying through, very dark. This was again actually in Milpitas, and I was thinking nothing much here to shoot until the light actually breaks and the clouds are actually covered the whole day, and then there's this one streak of light just falling on the birds, and that's what I exposed for. I got another shot of, this is the cormorant, but this is also one of my favorites. A great blue heron just flew by the same area, in fact, and then you can see the streak of light, just like a focus light on this bird. I don't know if people have been to Wave Crest in Half Moon Bay. I've seen plenty of owls there very early in the morning before the sunrise. The moment light comes out, these owls are gone. Most likely a barn owl in this case, and great horn also seen there. And this is a scene that actually captivated me because it was about 5:30 in the morning, not a soul there, and all I could hear was hooting. And there's absolutely no way I could see the details on this bird. This was shot at I think ISO 12,000, which I never do typically, but I wanted the shape of this bird and to see at least something that there is a bird here. And I mean, as soon as I saw the bird, it flew away. But this is like one or two photographs that I got. It clearly tells you there is a bird on there, but again, nothing dramatic in terms of details on this bird, right? So that's dark. I mean, lighting is very difficult because it's low light. Now we'll go to the opposite direction where this most likely during midday and there's too much of light. What do you do when your subject is a bird or something like that that you're really interested in? Actually, I've done this even during safaris where you are in the field midday when you typically don't like to do photography, but taking advantage of a high key technique can get you some images that you'll be really proud of, right? So hopefully this gives you examples. One of my favorite stories this year is on the northern gannet. I'd heard about this bird. I had gone there several times in Half Moon Bay in Pillar Point, never seen it. And then one day I saw it, and the bird is again quite far away. You don't get this kind of details on the bird. And I just so happened to ask I mean, somebody with a boat there who had come to refuel. And I said, "Hey, I'm willing to pay you some money. Can you take me across the bay to see this bird?" She said no. The husband said, "No, no, no, we don't do this insurance, and this is a big problem here." But then she asked me, "Why do you want to see this bird so bad?" So I showed her an internet photograph, and I said, "Hey, look at this northern gannet. It's not supposed to be here. It's a beautiful bird." And then in 5 minutes later, she's like, "Okay, hop on, let's go and check this bird out." So she brought me very close to this gannet, within 10 feet, and with the bright light there. So instead of trying to understand and trying to get dramatic like photographs in which I know are not going to be great, I started overexposing them. And so the overexposure really worked in this case because you see the shape, you see the colors, and then everything behind the bird is now being highly overexposed, right? So this now turns out into more of an artsy photograph than actually a bird portrait. Actually, this could work as a bird portrait also, but then it just tells you play with the light, play with what you have, and you end up with something dramatic like this. Don't get me wrong here. I took like 300 photographs of this bird that day, and I have several with high key. My own and a hummingbird in my yard. Nothing to do on a Saturday afternoon, highlight, and I started playing with high key. I'm just thinking, okay, what can I do with this bird, which keeps coming back to this flower, and can I do some dramatic photos with this just with high key? You can see this that this is so interesting to see the hummingbird with pollen, and the background is completely washed away here. Egret. I mean, so common. We see them all the time, thankfully. I can't say the same thing about a few years ago, but we're seeing them quite a bit, and it's just absolutely a stunning bird. And again, I can take a portrait, or in this particular case, because I was out in the middle of the day, I started thinking, what can I do different and make this an interesting photograph? And this is again a highly overexposed image. This is a bee eater. This is in India, and this guy was keeping. I mean, he kept coming back. He or she, sorry, it kept coming back to this branch. Middle of the day again. I was shooting through the window in my sister's house, and again, same story. I couldn't have gotten any other shot of this bird if I had not overexposed. And of course, I downloaded the photograph, started playing with the colors a little bit, and then I realized that if I overexpose and then change the contrast a little bit, I can get clarity on the bird, and then the background completely washes away. A fair bit of you have seen and seen. I'm hoping a lot of photographs of these grebes in the Bay Area. They had chicks last 2 years, pretty unusual. But then a lot of photographs were showing how the babies were on the back of the parent, and the parent would be feeding. And I was not that lucky to go there during early morning hours. And by the time I went there in the mid afternoon, then the light was really harsh. So I said the same thing, like, okay, instead of trying to get an image very early, which I was not able to, how do I use the light that I have currently and still make it an interesting image? Right. So I started overexposing, and then I get this image, which just, I mean, the water is completely washed out here, but then you can see the eye and you can see the baby very, very clearly. This is the Milpitas bald eagle that so many people have seen. And it had looks like obviously it had caught a fish and eaten the head. Same story here. I think around noonish, when I saw this bird, and same story. I actually overexposed it deliberately. This is the long-eared owl that was super famous in Coyote Hills. And as you can see, that this had just been seen. Actually, it was seen throughout the day, surprisingly, and sometimes actually even during 10:30, 11 in the afternoon. Sorry, in the morning, it was seen hunting. Right, and it had landed just in a tree in front of me, right behind, and the light was so harsh. No point taking photographs any other way except the high key. Okay, so those were high key images. We're slowly moving along. This is another favorite thing I like to do early mornings, especially with the light behind me. And I try to go to places which actually will have a lot of trees, and hopefully, if the trees are colorful, like in autumn, then you get to see those reflections in the water, and hopefully, again, fingers crossed, you get a bird or a series of birds in water that you can actually start photographing. So for this kind of photos, what I really do is I lay down on the ground. I'm pretty much sleeping at that point, and then wait for the scene. Right, I actually just park myself, don't move much, and hope for a duck or something to fly by or just float around. A bufflehead. People have seen this, people have photographed this, but one thing that I am absolutely enamored on this bird is the different colors on the head. In perfect light, then it's just amazing bird to see and photograph. And just imagine this golden, beautiful golden leaves being reflected off the pond here. This was in Foster City, not too far away from where I live actually, and just just gorgeous looking bird. Hooded merganser. This is also reflecting off the pond this was actually in Stowe Lake. I have to say this photograph is a little bit photoshopped, and I acknowledge it. The reflections were great, but what I felt is if I smooth the reflections, and so the one way to have done it is to actually pan the bird as it was going through. I just didn't succeed in that. Then what I did is I selected the background and then I smoothed them over using Photoshop, and that's why you see this app like really smooth. But the smoothing was not too much. Like to be honest, it was not dramatic. I mean, I didn't have to do too much around it, but just had to do a little bit of selection and smoothing in Photoshop. I like this effect quite a bit, in fact, and the lighting was just absolutely stunning. Wood ducks, couple of different spots that we see them. Same story. This is the green is all reflections from the pond, from the trees near the pond. This wood duck was taken in Niles Canyon in Fremont. Merganser, this is also in Stowe Lake, and you can imagine, right? You can see that during sunrise in Stowe Lake, there is this one particular spot that I really enjoy with the sun absolutely behind you. It starts hitting these trees, and the light hits the trees, and they reflect off this water, making it absolutely magical. I will advise to go with a friend, just being careful in that area. I know a couple of them who have not had very good success there, unfortunately, but with people. But just be aware, right? I think if you're aware of your of your things around you and people, you'll be okay. But just be careful. Again, it's a okay looking duck, I would say. Not as pretty as the male, obviously here, the ring-billed, but just look at the light, look at the reflections in the water. Just makes it magical. Mandarin duck. This is, the most colorful duck that I've ever seen and photographed. We had very good luck one year in Mountain View when this duck just decided to come to an apartment complex. And then the next year, in fact, last year, I went to Irvine to meet a friend, and they had a pond there in the regional park that had several mandarin ducks just actually that visit and stay there. This photograph is from Mountain View. This is from Irvine, where I saw the wood duck and the mandarin duck next to next. Unfortunately, I did not do a good job here. I couldn't focus on the wood duck, and I just didn't realize it in the field. And it's a little bit fuzzy, but the two most handsomest ducks that I've ever seen in the same frame, and with beautiful, stunning reflections of the water. I don't think you can ask for anything else. Yeah, this one I think was in Mountain View. This is one of the most common birds you will ever see. Right? This is a coot, nothing fancy. This is in Stow Lake, and I absolutely love this image actually, just for the way the water is flowing. This photograph is 99% from camera. The only thing I might have done, actually, I have done is crop, nothing else. Right? I just cropped it into a little bit time, a tighter composition. But other than that, everything else was in camera. And that's because the scene itself was so beautiful. And this one is in Shoreline, sunset. And I saw, I don't know, hundreds of shorebirds, hundreds of avocets in breeding plumage, and the light being reflected off the pond, of the bay there. I don't know if there is a phrase for hundreds of avocets, but my goodness, the day we saw, I don't know, I couldn't count. It's absolutely stunning. So just the compositionally, not the greatest composition, but if I look at the image here, the chocolate colored faces of these avocets, the reflections of the water, the number of birds, I think each of them in a different pose, just captivated me. So I'll go slowly into motion because this is some one form of photography that I'm beginning to enjoy, and yet I don't have good photos. I have a few, and they're starting to think about them quite a bit. It's going to take me a lot more practice, but hopefully it does justice in the next few years. So this is in Shell Bar at sunrise, a little bit after sunrise, and then I started seeing hundreds and hundreds of shorebirds flying around, and there's no way you can actually capture one of them in great focus. So the best thing you could do is to get shots like this. Right, you get hundreds of them together. They were just flying around. I thought for a second there's a falcon or a red-tailed hawk or something close by that was just disturbing them, but nothing around. They were just flying around on their own. So the fluttering, the sound, and just looking at the numbers, and it was stunning. For this one, same story. So instead of taking individual birds, I was thinking of, okay, this is a flock, and I wanted to show motion, so I slowed down the shutter a little bit, and this is like I think 1/50th or 1/60th of a second, and then you can see the movement of these birds, right? I think that's what I was trying to get here. This kind of photos is what I'm going to focus on hopefully this year. Again at Shell Bar at sunrise. So a dramatic light, silhouettes, and hopefully I can get something in motion. Uh, this is an egret, and I converted that to. Sorry, I played around with this. This is not a photograph that is true off camera. what I actually have done is I played around with it a little bit in Photoshop just to see if I can show motion. So I was panning the bird, and it kind of gave me a shot I really wanted, but not really off. I would say 30% Photoshop in this. So I just wanted to be honest about this. So back to my favorite birds here. Right? These are again the skimmers flying around. And after taking a few hundred shots, I was thinking, what else can I do with these birds in this scene? And started panning them, hoping to see motion, right? I think once you start panning, a couple of birds will be in focus, but the rest of them will be out of focus, and you see movement. And it's very, very difficult, but this is the form of photography that actually is starting to excite me quite a bit. One, I hope people have already guessed what this is, but this was one of my absolute stunning experiences in murmurations. These are starlings, and I mean the photographs don't do justice here. These are thousands and thousands of birds doing different forms in the sky, and I have like a great video of this murmuration. The question was, how do you show movement? How do you show birds in a flock? And if you have not seen a murmuration, that's definitely a sight to behold. So not just motion, monochromatic, believe it or not, can do magic to bird photography as well. And I hope I can convince you. So probably anybody who's done a lot of photography, egrets are one of my favorite topics. Absolute white birds, so it's very difficult sometimes to get the right exposure. And this is a bird. This was catching fish after fish in Shoreline Park in Mountain View. And all I did was convert that to a black and white. This experience of seeing grebes rush. These are western grebes. This was in Calero Reservoir, and I'm sure you've seen absolutely stunning images. In fact, I've also had some very, very good experiences in doing some video work here. As much as I love them, this image actually captivates me because it's in black and white. It's just seems a little bit different, but also dramatic. It just shows you the shape of the bird, and I had to tell you it is a Western grebe because I know that's what I was photographing that day. But just looking at it in monochrome makes it so exciting. One of my favorite shots, in fact, and because again, overexposed, did not know what else to do, but converting it to black and white made us a lot of sense for this bird actually. This was on sand in Half Moon Bay, and I really hope the shape and the features of and the bird pattern actually look at the feather patterns here, absolutely stunning, and nothing to distract away from the bird. I have to say one of my favorite, absolute favorite black and white photo, and I've seen some Japanese artists in fact had displayed their work in a museum, and that actually was my motivation behind this photograph. I had seen the great blue herons, in fact, to do the mating ritual, and then in this is in Stowe Lake in San Francisco, and immediately after mating, the male bird would go out and bring back something to offer. It was just so interesting to see, and this image just captivates me because it's like an offering, and it's so pretty against a blue sky. I have the color photograph somewhere. Against the blue sky, the birds look okay. They were looking good, but the moment I converted it to black and white, it just made it into an art form. Juvenile bald eagle. This was again in Merced. Again, such a pretty features on this bird that a regular color photo was not doing justice. And the great California condors actually in Pinnacle. So this was in Wave Crest. I know I'm just showing this photograph because in black and white they look so different. But again, this was a almost ISO 6000 or so, so dark. Nothing. I was not able to see anything. But the pair of great horns were calling quite a bit. And the moment I was able to take a couple of pictures and see them, but again, in black and white, the patterns on the bird, the way they're sitting, where they're sitting actually, and everything else made so much sense. Turns, feeding, same story, I would say black and white actually just makes it so much more dramatic. This was in Half Moon Bay, and again, a monochromatic shot of I think this is, if I'm not mistaken, a whimbrel catching a crab. Not to be undone with color. I am, I mean, definitely fascinated by color as well. But again, birds are colorful, undoubtedly. There are many of them, and pretty sure people have stunning photographs. Focusing on the details here, actually, this is a macaw in Costa Rica, and I have tons of photographs of the whole bird. But then once you start paying attention to the feathers, the patterns itself on the feathers, the color descriptions and all, they just in fact you can make it into a more artsy photograph than just showing the bird itself. A flamingo. This was actually in Washington D.C. Um, and surprisingly, the light was just absolutely perfect on this bird at that point. Summer tanager in Costa Rica. I'm just showing the color birds, and this is not to take away from anybody else's photographs of bird portraits. Just wanted to let people understand that in photography, I mean, just colors can be captivating, monochromatic can be captivating, right? And you can do so much with them. So these are just the red, white, I mean, red, green, and blue birds that I was trying to show in different scenes. Green bee eater, one of my actually favorite bluebirds. This is the mountain bluebird in Ravenswood and Aracari in Costa Rica. And just looking at these colors, right? I think if you can focus on the eye, for example, then you can get dramatic shots as well. Oh, Iceland was a just amazing trip to see these puffins, and we got pretty close to them. Actually, sorry, I should say the other way around. The birds got very close to us. We were standing on a wooden bench, and they would land 10 feet from you. They were carrying different things, and just looking at the beaks, right? Just focusing, trying to focus on what they were doing and what they were bringing to the nest was quite interesting, quite dramatic, actually. No explanation needed, right? So these macaws are so pretty. So this photograph of the peacock was in India. It's a national bird, and I'd actually seen them and photographed them. Also in California, Ardenwood actually has peacocks, and you do get lucky once in a while when they do the dance. It's supposed to be a dance during mating season they actually do perform. So if you're really lucky at the time, you do see them. But here it's just trying to focus on the eye and the patterns behind. I mean, these birds are so photogenic. I've shown the mandarin before, but wanted people to understand the colors on this bird is just incredible. It looks like a painting. And this particular drake was so comfortable with me that it just came less than 6 feet from where I was. I was actually on the ground, almost like full flat on the ground with my camera, not moving. And this guy came 6 feet to me and slept. Right. So it just tells you it was so comfortable with me around. It was very surprising. It's almost a full frame shot of the mandarin duck. You get absolutely stunning colors on hummingbirds. I did this photo trip with a friend of mine in Costa Rica, and as much as I liked the experience, I would not I don't think I enjoyed this kind of setup photography anymore, but just wanted people to know this is possible, right? You can actually get stunning photos of hummingbirds if you have the light setup and everything else. This light setup was artificial to me. I had the experience, and then and this was a few years ago, and that was my first and last one. Not that I'm not saying it's right or wrong; it's just not my style of photography anymore. This was in Ecuador. This is the long-tailed sylph coming and sitting on a banana plant, actually a banana fruit, in fact. And luckily enough, we did get a different kind of a hummingbird. It's a wood nymph that also came to the same flower. This is a pistache tree in Palo Alto, actually. Quite an interesting scene to see the western bluebird and the pistache tree, and it just dramatizes the whole scene, right? Having a bird on an arched branch, and then just having the fruits behind. You can make anything look artsy, and in fact, this is one of my favorite. Actually, this is a backyard hummingbird for me, which comes often, quite often. Actually, I don't know if it's the same guy, but he's been in my backyard for several years now, and it gives me so many poses in different light that you can start playing around with, like what kind of setup you really want to see this and show this bird. Uh, this is on a rose plant where he decided to take a nap, and the colors that you see behind are actually roses that are in my backyard. So with that, that was my last photograph. I just wanted to say this. It's for me, it's photography is becoming something of a passion. Bird photography, especially. I'm really, really enjoying this. This group, in fact, has been meant a lot to me. I get to see and I get to interact with a lot of you in the field when you present and when you come and share your stories. It gives me a lot of ideas. So I really appreciate that. I have started posting a lot of videos on my YouTube channel because I think this is something that I truly cherish. So with that, that was my last photo actually, was the hummingbird. All right. So I don't know how many of you are still around, but I would love to get feedback. So any questions, any feedback, truly appreciate that. Yeah, Alice, go ahead, please.
I'm very much an amateur. I use a point and shoot camera, but I'm a bird watcher. I go anywhere to go to see birds, and I so enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you.
Just I'm 85. I can't lie down on the ground and do what you do. But I have to say that if I could lie down on the ground and take those and just watch at dawn come up like that,
Yeah.
I would be off the charts. That is just so wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Those are so kind of you to say that, Alice. And I don't think you have to lie down. And I took a group of my friends. I also belong to a Peninsula Camera Club, and I think we took I would say about 15 to 18 photographers that I took them to the Shell Bar. The average age of that group was about 65. There's quite a few people who are older than that. And we said, you don't have to do anything. You just need to come. If you're interested, get a phone, get a camera, get whatever you have. And you just wait for sun to come up, right? And so it's just being outdoors, just seeing this is a treat itself.
Very nice to see. I enjoyed your high key, but I normally don't like so much, but I think you did a really nice job with that. Where is the Shell Bar park that you're talking about?
Shell Bar is in Foster City. I can send the link out to people in the email. It's very easy to find. I mean, it's very simple actually. Now Foster City has a walkway that has been built. So you just park there, you walk on the walkway, and you can get onto the Shell Bar very easily from there as well. There are a few entry points. You can just go and wait there. I would say check out the tide before you go. High tide is good for photography. The birds get closer to you.
Yeah, that would be nice to have a link up.
Yeah, certainly. I'm happy to send it around actually. Yeah, slowly turning out to be my favorite spot for sunrise. You get a little 20 to 30 minutes of good photography before light becomes too harsh. But again, even with that, it's just a beautiful 20 to 30 minutes. Sunset is also very, very good there. So evening, it's actually a spot for good photography in the evening. Again, I would say check out the tidal charts before you go.
Yes.
The fact that you stepped in is so, is just so, we're really grateful. I can't think there's anyone here who isn't really grateful. Thank you.
Oh, please don't say that. I really appreciate what you said, but this is a dream for me. I have these photographs, and I was thinking, what kind of story can I weave? I feel bad because I was looking forward to Parham's presentation. I saw his resume. I'm like, my God, he's got so much talent.
Yep.
So I'm hoping he'll come back. But again, this is something that Steve Zamek, who used to run this group, told me. Always be prepared because you don't know when people have to drop out for some reason or the other. So advice that I have to now remember quite a bit. Yeah, but great opportunity for me to show. I usually, this is not something that I do often, but I've really enjoyed putting the show together today, actually.
I have a question that's kind of changed the subject a minute, but I wonder if anybody's shooting with the new Canon 5D or the R5 Mark II and have any comments about it.
Any Canon people here?
Oh, worth a try. Thanks.
I don't see. Actually, sorry, I don't see anybody. I thought maybe there'll be a few people at least who are shooting with Canon, but the only one person I know who shoots with a Canon R5 or R6 is Steve Zamek.
Yeah, and this is a newer camera. I just thought somebody might have experience with it. Thanks.
Yeah. Ayush, yeah, go ahead, please.
So I recently got a Sony A1. Does anybody have any tips for that camera, or does anybody camera?
Yeah, Sony A1 is beautiful, right? It's one of the it's an amazing camera. I use it all the time. Actually, now I do have the Sony A1.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to walk over. One thing I'll say, and maybe I'll send this. Are you on the email list here? On this group?
I don't know.
Okay.
So like a few weeks ago, like one of the people on this group posted an article, because I recently won a photo contest, and they posted it because like they said like a local Los Altos 4th grader wins national photo contest.
Yeah. Is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, thank you for attending. You should think of showing your photograph someday. Then, can you connect with me offline?
I'll ask my parents.
Sure, please do. Please ask them to reach out, and then if you have a chance, let's talk. Because I do have the Sony A1, and then there's a couple of videos online that you can actually walk through. It's a person called Mark Smith. He has a whole setup. Yeah, he has a whole setup for Sony A1 for bird photography.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm happy to, if you have chance, and I'm happy to come and talk to you about shooting in the field. We have done a few youth birder trips where we teach a basic photography for birds. So you're welcome to join us someday.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome. Looking forward to seeing your photograph someday, okay?
Thank you.
Excellent. Command, you had a question online about filters. So I don't use filters actually. I don't like using filters for birds because they cut off light. Obviously, that's one reason. But or if there's a UV light, UV filter typically on my 7200, but not on my 200-600. But typically, other than that, I don't use any other filters. I try to underexpose a little bit while I'm shooting, but other than that, nothing else.
Cool, thanks. I was just wondering because some people get worried about like sensor damage and stuff with shooting at the sun.
Yeah.
So I was like, should I be concerned? I don't know.
Yeah, so that's one of the first things I told the group when I took them out about this photographers from the Peninsula Camera Club. The moment sun comes up, I tell them don't look directly into the sun through your lens. All you're doing is trying to damage your retina at that point, right? So we have to be very careful. But before the sun comes up completely, and just at sunrise, if you're underexposing it and you're taking shots around, let's say 1/1000th or 1/2000th of a second, you're okay for a couple of seconds there. I would still not advise looking directly into the sun. I also did a little bit of solar eclipse photography in the same story. Don't look directly into the sun for too long through your lens. You're just focusing light onto your retina.
Thank you.
Yeah, but backlighting, I'll tell you, once you get the magic of backlighting, it is just absolutely stunning. Excellent. No further questions. Thank you all so much, actually. Really appreciate you all calling in. And again, I'm always looking for speakers. I'm always looking for ideas. I have a lead for December, but then for January and February, if you have ideas, then please let me know. Happy to look at their photographs and happy to invite them to give presentations. So, all right.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you all. Bye-bye.